Hey fam, welcome back to Progressive Politics, a show where we break down the most critical issues happening here in Oklahoma.
Ryan Walters hates teachers.
It's been a rainy week here in the 405, so let's get into the recap this week. The GOP in Oklahoma has wasted no time in showing voters where its priorities are ahead of the November elections.
A Norman teacher resigned after providing a link to an ebook website, and Ryan Walters is demanding that we pull their teaching certificate.
I mean, guys, just to show you how easy this can be, if you don't have a teaching certificate or an administration certificate, you're not working in schools. The state superintendent can take those away.
Ryan Walters hates teachers. That's the short and long truth of it all.
Last week, Fox 25 reporter interviewed numerous parents who don't care about banning books, don't want books to be banned.
My concern is more about the threats of violence going on at the school.
Norman Public Schools confirms someone made a threatening phone call to the high school last Friday.
This is the second time in 2 years Norman High has had a threat of violence. And we're talking about banning books.
Norman Public Schools released a statement confirming a violent threat had been made via phone around all this. And I have to say, as a parent, I'm more concerned about, gun violence and other violence than I am about whether or not my kid clicks a public link to a public library.
Oklahoma, Governor Kevin Stitt here. You always hear me talk about making Oklahoma a top 10 state.
Top 10 news announced from Kevin Stitt. This is like a really bad CNN. So the governor appears with a whole bunch of secretaries to be able to put out his propaganda machine. I think he just saw a couple of our videos on Oklahoma Progress Now and decided to build his own. So, oh my God, was it Carly Atchison? You think she did this?
Shoot, I mean, his main chief communications guy just left to go work for like a national lobbying and PR firm. So I don't know. Maybe they were workshopping this before he left. But just watching that video, I mean, I was just kind of keeping a quick tally in my head. 6 out of the 7 agencies that were mentioned, the only one that I can't immediately think of like a scandal is the Agriculture Department, but the other 6 have all had, since Stitt's been in office, like an overt scandal or disaster that they were a part of. These are the agencies, of all the agencies in government that he could trot out, he goes and pulls like, OHP has been, in the news for like killing lots of people in high-speed chases. OESC, I feel bad for Shelley Zumwalt, but I mean, they were a disaster during the pandemic, trying to get people their unemployment. Director of Commerce, I mean, I'm working them right now about securitization, and it's not going to probably look very good for them. Pinnell signed the Swadley's deal. Frankly, I am looking forward to Top 10 News because I think it is going to be a content mine for years to come. We just talked about Stitt doing the Top 10 News and showcasing the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. This week there was an article from Max Bryan that, his tweet sets it up as, after OHP spun out a car and killed Ethan Mestis, a trooper told me, quote, "The science shows suspects won't stop driving recklessly if troopers terminate the pursuit. Available empirical evidence on this topic says the opposite." There's a lot of evidence that says high-speed chases make us less safe. And, I mean, even just common sense, honestly, should say that chases are not a great idea.
I mean, at that point, you just kill someone for fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like, is like an adrenaline rush, Tuesday was our Oklahoma City Council meeting, and journalist and reporter Marty Piercy, who was on last week, talked about one of the resolutions, which was a vote to cancel or dissolve our sister city status with Ulyanovsk in Russia. And Marty tweeted, "There's no way Putin will survive this one. We got him, folks." It's funny. I mean, my very brief take on this is somebody asked me the other day, just in random conversation, about what do I think of David Holt? And, is Holt the worst Republican mayor we've ever had in Oklahoma City? Definitely not. Like, many of them have been far worse, homophobic. But just the amount of performative stuff Holt gets to do and get patted on the back for is embarrassing, frankly. Big news this week was obviously Joe Biden's decision to cancel some percentage of student loan debt. There was a really good article by Zachary Carter called The Real Student Debt Debate. And his argument is that it is about social order. And I'll just read a quick quote from it. Student debt allows a certain kind of prestige hoarder to pay lip service to the ideal of universal education, while also looking down on some graduates as, well, not quite the real thing. Erase that debt, and this distinction disappears.
You know, Bernie Sanders got on ABC Newsweek this week, and he talks about how it's shocking that Republicans can see that the government on occasion works to help benefit some families.
Yeah, look, I know it is shocking, George, to some Republicans that the government actually on occasion does something to benefit working families and low-income people.
The resentment argument is just so strong, and that's like all they've got is like, I didn't get something good out of this, so I resent somebody else getting something good, which is just such a weird, selfish, bizarre argument, you know? Like, higher education costs, I mean, if you go read that other piece we mentioned, I mean, I graduated in 2004, but they exploded from 2006 to 2012, so, which was right around the Great Recession. So, I mean, you think about, like, kind of how concentrated the damage is on a generation that didn't, like, they're just going to school. They were just doing what they were told, you know? Like, you graduate from high school and you go to college. So it's like, to put these kids under so much debt that did not exist to previous generations, and then now, you know, 10 years later being like, well, we resent you getting any of that forgiven. It's just such a bad argument. It was really just an asshole argument.
Why do you hate working class people? That's a majority of the people in this country. And as somebody who comes from a political party that prioritizes business and prioritizes self-sufficiency, you can't have those things unless you're incredibly well educated.
Mark Wayne Mullen tweeted on the 24th, "There's no such thing as a free lunch." I agree, but of course, what Mark Wayne leaves out is that he got over $1 million in PPP loans that got forgiven during the pandemic. So, I mean, there's a free lunch for some folks when it benefits the wealthy and powerful, which, again, going back to Bernie Sanders' point, there's a lot of evidence that says that saddling kids with debt right as they're coming out of college is hurting their ability to buy cars, to, you know, get homes, to do all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of good reasons for all of us to help these students out.
Thanks for joining this week's discussion on progressive politics. If you'd like to hear more, make sure that you follow, like, and share our content. And if you want to see an uncut version of today's episode, it will be on our YouTube channel.